So there's no other way to put this, and the Browns had a really disappointing week 1 of football here against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the question after this loss against the Baltimore Ravens is, should the Browns be panicking? Are these problems fixable? Is this a sign of more disappointment to come? Well, let's talk about it. Real quick before I get into this video, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified. I want to hit 20K before the end of the season, so please help me in doing that goal. I have a ton of content coming out about the upcoming season, so if you like that, please make sure you lock it in here, subscribe, and notify. Now, the word I would use to describe today's game, for the Browns at least, was flat. They came out flat. They just did not look good. And I know a lot of people are going to use the excuse, well, they had to shorten preseason and they didn't get as many padded practices. But what I saw week 1 from every other team was that wasn't necessarily the big issue that people have made it out to be. I mean, Washington won week 1 here with the new head coach. Jacksonville has like a new everything almost inside that building when it comes to players. They won. So no, that's not an excuse for the Browns. I'm not going to chuck this loss up to that. There are some things specifically that the Browns did to themselves that hurt them and shot themselves in the foot. And this happens in football, right? Teams hurt themselves all the time. Here are the specific things that the Browns did. Austin Seibert, missing extra points, missing field goals. Those are momentum killers. Those deflate the sidelines. Those are some of the things that you can't have. Now, I know I've talked about Austin Seibert long enough. I don't want to pile on to the guy. He's clearly has his job in danger after today. So, like, we know what that was today. We know what the solution probably is going to be. And that was something that put the Browns back, that shot themselves in the foot, that allowed the Ravens to get even more momentum when they're a very good team to begin with. Remember, they went 14-2 last year. Wasting that possession after the fumble also was a key thing because they didn't even get a field goal out of that. They got up to like the 29, then they got all those penalties, got sent back. You know, that felt like last year on that drive at least. And, you know, it was just one of those things where they just did not catch a break. Now, the penalties, I don't think this year is going to be the same as last year with the penalties because even Baltimore got a ton of penalties today. That might be one of those things that are affected by the lack of practice, right? The penalties are just going to be up. Baltimore had like 7. The Browns had like 8 or 9. So, no, I'm not really overly concerned about the penalties, but wasting that one possession was huge. Like, the Browns were in this game for a while, and then they just gave it up right before the first half ended because they did this stuff to themselves. The fake punt in the first half. What kind of decision was that? That was one of the worst decisions. That was almost on 3rd and 9 draw kind of territory. How bad of a call that was. I don't understand the mindset that went into that fake punt. Maybe they thought they saw something, but like, why? Why when you're playing Baltimore would you run the risk? Like, Baltimore is one of those teams you do need to play a little safe against because if you give them an inch, if you give them a window, they will avalanche and beat you down. And that's exactly what happened with Baltimore today. Baker had that tip ball interception in the first drive of the game. You know, all these mistakes dig the Browns' grave today. That's what happened. I don't think this was about practice. This was about them just making mistakes and they having it piled on top of each other with bad decisions, bad performances all over the place. You know, that's what happened today. You know, I'm not going to give them the excuse that they had to shorten off season because you know what? They're not the only team that had to shorten off season. So that being said, that's kind of my overview of the game. Let's talk about the specific parts of the game. I'm going to talk about the defense first. Now, anything good or bad that I say about this defense should come into context that one, they gave up 38 points. So, like, this is not going to be a great defense. Like, off rip, I've said this before. This defense is not going to be top 10. Like, that's not going to happen. They gave up 38 points. But they also gave up 38 points to the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be one of the best, if not the best offenses in the NFL. So, like, yeah, you gave up 38 points, but are you going to be the only team that has playoff aspirations that gives up 38 points to the Baltimore Ravens? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So I'm not panicking about the defense. I think there's some good things that we learned about this defense in week 1. I think there are also some things that were confirmed about this defense. The one thing that's been confirmed that I've been kind of yamming on about ever since the season ended last year was that the inside run and tight ends look like they're still going to be a problem, right? Covering those two parts are going to be an issue. And against Baltimore, that was a massive issue. Inside run was there all day, and the tight ends were there all day for Baltimore, wide open, at times. Sometimes it was Marquise Brown even wide open in the middle of the field. So, no, those two things aren't going to change. Baltimore was able to exploit those things to the max. That's going to be an issue all season. Like, if you think the Browns are going to shut down the tight end or the inside run at any point in the season, I highly doubt it. Maybe 1 or 2 games here or there, but that's going to be a problem throughout the season for this team. One thing we did learn is that the outside run, it's not going to be a problem. The Browns actually did a really good job with the stretch runs. Even when Lamar Jackson would do those read options where he would bounce it outside, didn't really have the success that I thought he would. They really did a good job being disciplined in maintaining the edges and containing there. So that's really good for the defense that they're able to do that. And that's going to help them against a team like Cincinnati, who are going to want to run the ball to the outside more than they're going to want to run the ball inside. So again, that's a good thing about this defense. The run specifically isn't going to kill them. The inside run is. The outside run, they can actually stop that. They can get out there on these stretch plays. It's just the interior run and the tight ends that's going to be something you're just going to have to deal with for the entire season. The secondary issues I was kind of worried about from the end of camp have carried over, right? Miscommunication, nobody knowing where they're going to have to be, people getting exposed, people just being wide open. Like, that was the issue today. Lamar had himself a pretty easy day today, I would think, because everybody was just wide open from him. There was a lot of miscommunication. Again, they're running this zone, and not everybody trusts everybody to be in the position that they're going to be, so they're not playing this zone properly. And that is simply because this first team unit did not get a ton of reps together at the end of camp because everybody was hurt in and out throughout of camp. The personnel here is fine. I just think they need time to develop. Like, that back end will probably develop later on in the season and be much better, but the issues that existed in that scrimmage still exist now, and they're probably going to exist against Cincinnati, so that's going to be an issue for the short term. Now, I don't want to jump down this defense's throat because I don't think they're the reason the Browns lost this game. Like, yeah, did they do some unforgivable things, like letting Lamar go 99 yards on them? Like, yeah, sure. Those things did happen. I'm not saying this is going to be a great defense. I'm just saying the Browns did not put this defense in great positions throughout the game. They gave them short fields a lot. It was just an overall sloppy performance that just leaned into the defense, and the defense kind of just had to deal with what they got there. And, when you're playing Lamar Jackson, you can't really make those mistakes. You can't give them short fields consistently because the result will be this. And that's what happened. So I'm not going to really indict the defense. I don't think the defense is good, but I don't think they're as bad as people are saying they looked this week. If you think this is going to be like the 30th defense in the NFL, I would raise your expectations up to like the 22nd or the 25th. I think they're going to be that level. Not a great defense, but not the worst defense in the world. Myles Garrett has to have a bigger day. Like, they rely too much on Myles Garrett to have a big day in order to do anything. And I think that's ultimately going to be the problem against teams with good offensive tackles. This offense had times, right? Especially in the first half before they just kind of blew everything open at the end of that. Where you could see what's going on. You can see what they're trying to do. You can see where they could be successful, especially with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt looked great today. But you just had a couple players, and I'm saying specifically Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham, who were just in the twilight zone today. Austin Hooper, too, because he didn't do anything today, too. Those 3 players, Odell especially, I don't know what was going on with Odell, but he was in the twilight zone. Like, he was getting open. He just couldn't catch today. Like, he had a lot of drops. He wasn't focused. Like, something was wrong with Odell, and him and Nick Chubb had uncharacteristic games. They really need to bounce back Thursday against Cincinnati because I don't know what the hell was going on with those two today. That was kind of just puzzling, and it kind of just had a domino effect on the rest of this offense here. Odell was out of rhythm all day. I feel like Nick Chubb was similarly out of rhythm. I felt like they tried to run him inside against this Ravens interior defensive line way too much. And I felt like they could have had more success trying to get him to the edge. I thought Kareem Hunt should have got more touches today, quite honestly, because you were able to get to the edge against this Ravens team. Kareem Hunt's a little bit faster than Nick Chubb. The offensive line had a little bit of issues with the inside zone run scheme here. But, you know, I credit that more to the Ravens defensive line. Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, you know, Derek Wolfe, they're going to do a great job against the inside run there in Baltimore. So, I don't really blame that on the offensive line there. I think the offensive line also did a good job in pass protection. Jedrick Wills got hurt this game. I don't know how bad it is by the recording of this video. It could be really bad. It could be nothing, but we'll see. He did not finish the game today, so that could be a big factor in what happens against Cincinnati, because Cincinnati has a decent defensive line. Carlos Dunlap, Mike Daniels, you know, DJ Reader, Geno Atkins, you know, Sam Hubbard. They're not a slouch in that area, so that could be a problem for the Browns on Thursday night. So we'll see what happens there. Also, didn't like the play calling. Wasn't in love with the play calling. I felt like they didn't run the ball enough to start the game. I felt like they were trying to start off with play action instead of run the ball on first down more often. I felt like when they did start running the ball on first down, that's when they were able to score on that drive. So not in love with the play calling. I'll wait till, you know, about week 4 to really be judgmental about if Kevin Stefanski should continue to call these plays, but not a good opening salvo for Kevin Stefanski as the play caller by any means. I do have to give credit to David Njoku, though. I felt like he had a great game today. You know, this is a guy who had a terrible camp coming into it, but he seems like a dude who, once he gets in the uniform, once he gets to a game situation, he just steps it up. And he stepped it up today, made some great catches, got the touchdown catch. I went on kind of a rant a week and a half ago about why would there be a David Njoku package. He has not proven that he's worthy of one. Today, he showed that, you know, you might want to have him in there as a package. So David Njoku had a great game today. Shouts out to him, because I thought he wasn't going to get very much playing time at all, but he made the most of whatever he got. And, you know, you have to give your hats off to him. I hope he does the same thing against Cincinnati and in closer games. But, you know, hats off to David Njoku. So what's my conclusion after this week 1 disappointment on top of all the other disappointments that's happened in week 1 since 2004? You know, the Browns got their butts kicked today by a team that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. It's not acceptable. I'm not accepting any excuses about it. I don't think this is something you can just throw to, oh, shortened off season. I don't think that's the excuse for today. I don't think that had anything to do. I don't think that had very much to do with what happened today. Today, the team just did not mentally look like they were ready to play. For whatever reason, they seemed off from the start of this game. That has nothing to do with training camp. That has all to do with their mentality coming in. So I'm not going to give them that excuse. But on the same hand, while I'm not giving them excuses and while I'm not going to say that's acceptable, I'm not going to panic here. You got beat down, but ultimately you got beat down by a team that's going to beat down a lot of teams this year. It doesn't make it good, but it's not the same thing as if Cincinnati on Thursday night beats down the Browns just like Baltimore beat down the Browns this week, then I would start to panic. But since this is Baltimore, they're probably going to beat another contending team like that, you know, sometime this season. They're really good, and they matched up well against the Browns, and the Browns gave them opportunity after opportunity to get their momentum going. You know, they had time to take the momentum. That fumble, they really could have took momentum in the game there, but they gave it back after mistake after mistake after mistake. These were very avoidable mental errors and mistakes that the Browns made today. They beat themselves a lot today. Like, Baltimore did their thing, showed up, and did what they had to do. Now, all that being said, if they come back here, they play Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football, and they have a good showing, and they have that long week before they play Washington, that's going to do wonders for this team. They're going to have more time to get things together. They're going to have more time to get this secondary back healthy. You might even have Mack Wilson back by then. You know, it's going to do a wonder for this team if they can get that win. But the pressure's on, because Cincinnati is not going to be a roll-around team. You're not just going to be able to beat them because they're there. You have to beat them. It's a division game on a primetime situation. You got to beat the Bengals. The pressure's on. So what happened between 1 to 5 o'clock today happened. You got to turn the page. And I think the mindset for this team, and honestly the fan base, shouldn't be to dwell on this game, but to take a word of advice from one of the greatest coaches of all time, Bill Belichick.
react to the adversity of Monday night to get back on track so quickly? Because from a condition standpoint, this team, this organization hasn't had these sort of issues in the past.
Yeah, but we're on to Cincinnati.
Bill, do you think, you mentioned Tom's age at the draft.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Do you think having a 37-year-old...
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.